In this complicated revenge tale, one assault leads to the desire to get revenge porn, but when a romance blooms, so begins the question of whether to take things as far as originally planned. So to summarize the movie, Jules, who goes by the stage name Aphrodite, was picking up some cigarettes when they had their first interaction with Preston. It was by no means cordial, as insults were exchanged, and it escalated to Jules being assaulted. I should note, physically assaulted, not sexually assaulted. But it did leave quite a mark on Jules, left him traumatized and with PTSD. And 3 months later, Jules decides to go to a bathhouse to cruise a little bit, and they see Preston. And because Jules is not in their Aphrodite makeup, Preston doesn't recognize Jules, and they being Jules, decides to perhaps trick Preston since they can tell that he's DL. But what is a bit unexpected when it comes to Preston is that when Jules hooks them, they gain feelings for him because Preston acts in a way, even though I won't say he's DL. He might be considered more discreet, trade, whatever you want to call it. And he's willing to go on dates with Jules. He's willing to pursue. And as feelings develop for Jules, so comes the question of, will they let what happened go? Or will this just make this whole revenge plot all the more complicated and complex for when the big reveal happens? So getting to the review portion, there's only one topic, and that's just how this movie can leave you very torn about how to feel about Preston. For in the beginning, Preston's someone easy to write off as a type of villain. He's someone who seemingly is homo-averse, clinging on to his masculinity as a shield, and is more than willing to berate somebody like Aphrodite, aka Jules, as a means to reaffirm his belonging to a hyper-masculine culture. Yet, then comes Preston showing that he lives 2 lives. And this is where things get complicated for. You are never pushed to condone what Preston is doing, nor Jules, yet you at the same time understand why they do the things they do. In terms of Preston, you can never discount the fact that Jules as Aphrodite tease and really push Preston to react in the way he did, leading to them getting assaulted. But at the same time, you know that Preston didn't have to take it that far, and at the same time, he could have went after his friends for pushing the idea that he is something that he feels like he's not, or doesn't want to be in that life that he lives in. Yet he didn't do that. Instead, he took it out on Aphrodite, aka Jules. But then when you see him go on dates with Jules, and I'm talking about fancy dining, in the car, hanging out, and yes, in the beginning, it was just, I'm going to treat you to a meal before I have sex with you. But as time goes on, they're hanging out with each other's friends. Jules is starting to integrate into Preston's world. Preston's starting to integrate with Jules' world to a certain degree, but not the Aphrodite portion. And all the while, Jules is still looking into how to do revenge porn, and Preston is, I won't say falling in love, but definitely getting comfortable with the idea of being with a guy. And even though he still has to live this dual life of being some form of a straight man while also being DL, trade, discreet, whatever you want to call it, it's a lot to process. And especially what kind of boggles my mind is that while Preston act that way toward Aphrodite and beat them up and everything, when it comes to Jules, there was so many opportunities where he could have just slipped out and just been like, this secret thing, but he made an effort to romance, to really show that he has some type of long-term desires toward Jules. And it makes me wonder, was it just an issue of Aphrodite and the fact that that was a femme person coming on to him? Was it because of his friends that he had that kind of reaction? I mean, would Jules have gone for someone like Aphrodite if not Jules, if would Preston have gone for someone like Aphrodite? Or even if his friends wasn't around, maybe would he have flirted with her? It's all so complicated in a way where in the very simple mind of things, Preston can be seen as a terrible person, but if that he's only a bad person if you live in a very black and white world. If you allow a large swath of gray, which most people hopefully do live in, it's immensely complicated to the point where it makes for probably one of the best films featuring LGBT characters and themes that I've seen in a long time. Overall, when it comes to Femme, it produces the type of complexities you may not expect in any type of revenge film. For while you would think it's gonna be a simple, straightforward gay person gets revenge on the assaulter who happens to be down low, trade, discreet, whatever, because it allows Preston to have layers to him to the point where you want to question, can he or should he have a redemption arc? Femme gives you a type of storyline that leads to not only complicated feelings for Jules, but also complicated feelings for the viewer, as you may find yourself questioning, especially with how black and white the world has become, whether or not there should be some form of gray considering everything that's involved with Preston and Jules' relationship.